About this time a year ago, we had DLC Toronto. But after Toronto ended, Shimmering Skies became legal. And with that, a plethora of brand new cards to the game that would really warp the game, honestly, a bit more than we realized at the time. But for me, a card that stuck out on day one, above all else, was Doc Bold Knight. And that sparked kind of way more than I ever expected at the time. But the true just like embodiment of what that card did for Disney Lorcana and what it's about to do in rotation. So, for those of you that maybe not remember, or this is your first time here checking out a brand new guide for the channel, Amethyst Steel Doc was a deck that the Forbidden Mountain kind of made popular. We were able to go into DLC Vegas and have very successful results with that deck, and then would continue over the next 5-6 months playing it in the Shimmering Skies metagame and in the Azurite Sea metagame. Around Arceus Island, we did think that it was one of the more better decks of the format, but there wasn't any high stakes tournament to really be successful in with that deck. And then in set 8, it kind of fell off. And because of that, we actually didn't really push forward too much. It didn't get any new cards. There wasn't any like new creations or anything like that. It was just really picking up the pieces of decks that we had created months ago and just kind of playing to the position of which one is best. The rotation, that leaves that same exact question up for debate once again. So today we're going to be talking about some of the new cards in the format and some of the new ways to approach a brand new format. With that, let's get started. The one, the only Doc Bold Knight. The 2-cost, uninkable, 1 strength, 3 willpower, 1 lore with the ability Drastic Measures. When you play this character, you may discard your hand and draw 2 cards. That's right. This is likely the single best way to draw cards in Disney Lorcana in rotation. I believe you will see Amethyst Steel. I believe you will see Amber Steel, Ruby Steel, Sapphire Steel, Emerald Steel, and all of those will include Doc Bold Knight. I just don't think there's any real negative to playing this card in any deck. There is not enough playable good uninkables in any one of these decks that would not have you play this wonderful card at the cost of just 2, with the ability of drawing 2 cards in a format where drawing cards is so difficult. It really does make him the best option for Steel, and potentially Steel the best option to draw cards, period. And of course, if anyone knows anything about Doc, well, chances are that before you play your first Doc, you're going to have your second Doc, which is quite unfortunate. But listen, if you're here and you haven't played this yet, and if you already have been around the block and you have been playing Doc, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These cards stick together. My friends, shuffle your deck as good as you can. Also, be very wary on your altar. If you got one in your hand and you think you're like, okay, I need this card, but I got to mold these other 3 cards. Trust me, send the Doc away. Do not ever start the game with 2 Docs in play. Please, you don't want to do that in your opening hands, but I had to make this a precedent in this point because there ain't no party like a Doc party. Now, what is the difference? Well, the core fundamental difference is Madam Mim. Madam Mim Snake, Madam Mim Fox were 2 cards that were very prominent in the previous builds of this deck list. Now, there were other versions that also included cards like Yensid and Brooms and all those things. And every one of those decks had a position for a time in the metagame. But for the majority of the time it does exist, these are the reasons why. Being able to repeat Doc Bold Knight or repeat Pete Games Referee were crucial ways for this deck to win games in matchups it should not. It's how we beat Emerald Steel. It's how we beat Amber Steel. It's how we beat Ruby Sapphire. So like all of those decks were really designed to play actions, to play songs, and benefit from them, to create board wipes and things like that, to win with Shark. In order to do that, we had to play cards like Madam M Fox and Madam M Snake to be successful. We don't have them anymore. Does that mean this deck is gone? No, quite contrary. What it means is that nobody has these cards anymore, and nobody has, honestly, 18 playable songs in their deck, and nobody has every steel repeal removal known to man. Nobody has Be Prepared. Things like that were always our biggest enemy. So while a Pirate's Life and Shark are still a big deal, the fact that we don't need to probably play 6 or 7 Pete's in any game means that it's not a big loss to lose these cards, and we can easily move forward with that. So it's okay, guys. But I understand Heartbreakers out there, some of the best cards in Disney Lorcana, and trust me, I will miss them too. Taking a look at where it all began. This is the 98th place finish deck at DLC Vegas, played by yours truly. As you can see here, it was very much an aggro burn deck. At the time, it was also, I believe, $72. And that was a large appeal to a lot of players going this set championship season. Most players in set championships are not the ones traveling to DLCs, traveling to third-party events. They're simply just trying to be successful in set championships with an affordable deck. So in Disney Lorcana, I would say the average cost of a deck is closer to around $200 nowadays. But in this format, we were able to find a way to make one of the better decks in the format under $100, and that was a big deal. So with that, and kind of with our roots, I wanted to start the rotation like that as well. I wanted to show you a deck that I believe has a chance to still be successful in the same vein of this aggro burn deck that you might have once loved, and how it might look in the rotation. So here it is, our day one Doc Burn deck. Now you can see some old familiar friends and of course some new ones. For a point in time, Mr. Arrow was a card that we were very high on, but in the end, it ended up kind of being filtered out by so many other playable 2-cost characters. However, now we no longer have that because Mr. Smee is gone. Our Madam Mim Snake is gone. So we have to go and look for 2 lore characters, and in some cases, we need inkable ones specifically. So having characters like Mr. Arrow and characters like Maleficent are presenting more and more characters that have 2 lore in this deck, which is very important to get to the number necessary to be able to win the game through burn. Now, this deck obviously has a ton of burn in it. We have 4 Cobra, 4 White Roses, 3 Gathering Knowledge and Wisdoms. We have 2 This Is My Family. We also have 5 different locations, 3 Library and 2 Fairy Ships. And then we have Vinny. Vinny Green Pigeon is a 3-cost, uninkable, 1 strength, 4 willpower, 1 lore with the ability Learning Experience. During an opponent's turn, whenever one of your characters is banished, gain 1 lore. Now, this effectively is just turning all of our characters into additional burn. So as long as we're getting at least 1 quest in with our character and then getting the additional ability from Vinny, he kind of acts as just an item or like its own kind of location that can't be challenged. So as long as you keep him stood up and you really present a way for a lot of your characters to turn sideways, gain the additional lore when they have to wipe the board, Vinny becomes a real big problem. The other additional burn now is Honey Marin. Honey Marin is the 2-cost inkable, 2 strength, 2 willpower, 1 lore with the ability Tale of the Fifth Spirit. When you play this character, if an opponent has an exerted character in play, gain 1 lore. So as you can see here, this is an effective burn deck. We're playing cards like Show Me More because at the end of the game when we're low on cards, all we really need to do is find a way to draw a couple more lore. And this deck has so much out of questing lore that it's kind of insane. The other key factor here of this deck is that it currently is sitting at 13 uninkables, and there was just a brand new card revealed, which was Nala. Nala is a 2-cost, uninkable, 0 strength, 2 willpower, with an ability that gives her, while she's undamaged, resist 1 and an additional 1 lore. So effectively, you can play a 2-cost 0/3 with 3 lore on turn 2, which is a phenomenal card because if this deck could have ever played Piglet, the Captain Pirate, it would have. So now you kind of have your own version of that, which is quite nice and will definitely find a way. However, the reason it's not included in this particular deck list is that I wanted to come in and start you off with that $75 deck list that I was starting with before. And that's exactly what this deck comes in currently at, $75.32. If you add Nala into this on day 1, I do think it becomes a better deck, but I also think that Nala might be a $10 to $20 card because of the low pull rate on the specifically new cards and most likely the set not being opened as much. So while I do think Nala makes this deck certainly better, I also think she likely adds $40 to $60 onto the price tag, and I really, really wanted to start you out on a normal budget deck. So here it is, Doc Burn, day 1. This deck absolutely will catch people off guard. Going first, I'm not even sure how you lose. And going second, you just have to navigate your way to gain the additional lore and prevent your opponent from getting to 20 before you. Now, Amethyst Steel in the current rotation really has almost all of its tools remaining that it previously did have before. And some of the ones that it got back are really, really powerful cards, such as Tinkerbell. Having a Tinkerbell shift line in Amethyst Steel is huge, specifically when the other card they're shifting on isn't even that bad. The idea that you can just decide to continue to quest with your Tinkerbell Fast Flyer and just gain 2 lore as much as you want is very notable, but the option to shift Tink is very big as well. If your opponent ever leaves themselves open to a 2-for-1 or maybe even a 3-for-1 with Tink Giant Fairy, that will always be there for you. The rest of this deck also comes in and really creates some very interesting points. Cards that I continuously talk about in other videos are Madam Mim, Tiny Adversary, and Raja. Both these cards are new 2-cost characters, and they really fit a role so very well. They turn on a lot of your characters from 3 to 4 strength, from 4 to 5 strength, and I believe that these are break points in Disney Lorcana so far in rotation. Getting to 4 strength, getting to 5 strength truly does matter, and if you can do it in a way that your opponent isn't expecting, while it be Tiny Adversary, while it be Seven Dwarves Mine to kind of move in and then ping something down and then turn your 4 strength characters into good enough to winning are big deals. What it also really does is creates a way to answer Pluto, a way to answer Tiana, and things like that. This deck also goes all the way up to the Restoring the Crown. Now, Restoring the Crown is the 6-cost uninkable action. Exert all opposing characters. Whenever one of your characters banishes another character in a challenge, this turn you gain 2 lore. I think Amethyst Steel is going to have a lot of boards that you stand still, and neither player is going to act until they feel absolutely comfortable. And that's going to be very difficult because in most cases it revolves around Elsa. Now, while Elsa is good, in the current metagame, you're going to still need some help to make the best of her. But what Restoring the Crown does is that it really just enables action on your terms. And what I mean by that is exerting your entire opponent's board and then you making all the trades that are most favorable to you and gaining 2 lore the whole time makes this deck for a pseudo control combo deck, because now all of a sudden you have ways to gain extra lore with Calhoun, extra ways to gain lore and do damage with Tinkerbell, turning Iago, Belle, Cobra, like all of these cards that have such good power, such good strength and willpower to stick around into 2 lore gainers like Calhoun just can flip a game completely upside down. Also, cards like Yelena are notable. And of course, we're going to talk about other cards that were revealed in the new version of Fabled as well. So these cards, this deck, really just kind of a nice little tempo-based version of this deck, slowing itself down a little bit, understanding still what the best cards are. The best cards in the format are still Doc. They're still Strength of a Raging Fire. Genie is still very good. Tinkerbell's very good. Elsa's very good. Like, the cards in this deck are all very playable. They're very relatable. And you can really just look at it and say, I understand the goal for every card that is here. Hey guys, this video is covering kind of the basics and some of the different deck lists to start with on day 1 for Amethyst Steel. However, the Doc rotation guide is our first official guide that's on Metafy for rotation format. It's a deck that we very much believe in. We think it's going to be one of the more successful decks in the early goings of the Fabled rotation format, and it's going to be evolving. There's so many versions of this deck. Which version will be best on a given week? Which one has the best position? Where is the true best elements to building your own Amethyst Steel? All that is going to be covered in this and more. You're seeing lots of different cards and reasons for those cards, but you don't understand the full script. And the truth is, this guide is going to cover it. So if you're looking to make sure that you have all the information possible to be successful in the coming weeks, pick up this guide, check out that QR code, and definitely follow us. Hit us up on Metafy. Whether or not you buy the guide, there's so much good information there. We also have multiple free guides. So here's my last tip for you. If you want to win with Amethyst Steel, this guide, absolutely for you. Doc Mines is another way to build this deck. I believe that Seven Dwarves Mines is a very powerful card in the format. With the lack of removal, the lack of songs, having a card like Seven Dwarves Mine come in with 6 willpower, the ability to gain additional lore each turn, and really interact with the board by moving characters and doing damage is really big. It's very important. It's very aggressive, and it can really shut down a lot of key things that opponents are trying to do. All of those Amber Steel Pluto decks out there, they want to live behind their Pluto with as a 5/5. No, just gonna play my mines, move to my mines with any character, all of a sudden do 1 damage to a Pluto, and guess what? It's now a 1/4. And a 1/4 a lot less threatening than a 5/5. Really love that. Also interacts with Lawrence very well. Comes in, puts a damage on Lawrence, and then you just get to trade into it. You just get rid of it. It's so powerful, so good. I think that this card is going to be one of the more underrated cards in the format, and I would much rather you be on board early than on board later. The other addition to this deck in particular is, of course, Madame Elephant. I think Madame Elephant has the potential to be in any version of Amethyst Steel. Just picking up your dock when necessary to draw those extra 2 cards could make a true difference in mirror matches. While it's not a requirement, why it's not necessary, it really is just adding on to the possibilities of way to draw cards. Obviously, it also gives you more Cobras, more White Roses. When necessary, it can give you more Tinkerbells, more Genies, all of those things. You can reset your Lawrences. There's lots of really good options for Madame Mim in general, but even her move ability alone is very underrated in the format, and I think that that's also quite interesting. When in doubt, if your opponent has resist, you can actually move your Mim to the mines, do 1 damage to your own Mim, and then at the start of your turn, you can just move a damage or move 2 damage if you can find a way to do 2 damage to your Mim and things like that, and then really start turning on that ability as well. So Madame Mim Elephant, a card that hasn't seen a ton of play, has a pretty good chance to find success, I think, in the rotation format. Last but not least, Doc Midrange. I believe this deck is one of the more formidable decks of the format. I think early on, you'll see a lot of aggressive strategies, and this deck will melt your aggressive strategies. It has the 10/1 drops. It has the Raja, the Calhoun, still the Shift Tink line, which I think is so very powerful into those matchups. Having a 1/3 evasive makes it very difficult for your opponents to interact with. It stings Strength of a Raging Fire pretty safely. You're also getting cards like Yelena. You're getting cards, still like Elsa and Genie. You're just doing all the things that you want to do while tacking on, gaining lore along the way. Library still has a very high potential to be very powerful in the format as well. So all in all, this is another way to just say, hey, I don't really want to play my aggressive style. I'm not too interested in playing some hyper control. I don't really want to think too much and play 7 Doors Mines. I think that this is the most straightforward version of this deck that does very, very well into an anticipated aggressive field. Of course, some of the brand new cards that we have to discuss for this deck in particular are Lilo, Best Explorer Ever, which is the 3-cost inkable, 2 strength, 2 willpower, 1 lore with come on, people, let's move. Whenever you play this character, your other characters gain Challenger +2 this turn, and go get them. Whenever this character quest shows an alien character gains 2 +2 strength, and this character can challenge ready characters this turn. Now, there aren't too many aliens to go with this, but there are some. So this card is quite interesting, and it might see a ton of play. I also really like the idea that it can come in. It can buff a Raja and a Diablo, and all of a sudden you kind of just take 2 characters out that your opponent wasn't necessarily expecting, which, Fox or Crab could never really do unless it was specifically Crab into Fox and things like that. So this is really kind of interacting that way as much as possible at the cost of having a good one and a good 2-cost character in play to really double down on what Lilo has to offer. If you can find an alien, it's just bonus. Dumbo is the other card that definitely will come to mind and probably find a home somewhere in some version of Amethyst Steel. 4-cost inkable, 3 strength, 3 willpower, 1 lore with evasive, ability breaking records, exert this and pay 1, draw a card and gain a lore, and the ability making history. Your other characters with evasive gain exert them, pay 1, draw a card, and gain 1 lore. I think this card's very interesting. I think it's very slow. So depending on what your kind of deck is trying to do will really dictate if Dumbo will fit. Currently, haven't had a lot of reps with the card, but I don't think that Amethyst Steel is necessarily the place for it. I think Ruby Amethyst makes a lot more sense. I think Amethyst Emerald makes the most sense. So all in all, I can definitely see this card seeing play, probably in Sapphire Amethyst as well. but I'm not sure that Amethyst Steel is what I would consider to be the de facto Dumbo deck. Quick shout out to our sponsors, Codex Journals. You can check that out, that QR code, hit it right there, go straight to codexjournals.com/forbidden mountain, and if you use Codex offer 5359, you get 10% off your order. It's a wonderful way to support us while giving you the best way to take notes and get better and get ready for the DLCs coming up in Season 2. Final shout out to the Amethyst Steel gang. This is Garrick from Garrick's Lorcana Lair. Awesome. Had to take this photo with them because it was, listen, when you are an Amethyst Steel fan, you take the Amethyst Steel pictures. So yes, this was an Amethyst Steel guide. This was a very generic, just get you in there, get the ideas flowing, showcase some of the decks that we have already been working on and really testing. But again, if you want more information, it's important. You got to know, you got to look at it, you got to do it. You got to buy the guide. The guide is going to tell you everything you need to know. It's going to break down every single playable character in the rotation format and why you would or would not play it in a given deck. So if you're looking for it, if you're looking to get the most out of Amethyst Steel, I promise you more work was put into this guide than any other guide so far to date because we are that much of believers in this. We believed in Amethyst Steel for sets 5, 6, and 7. And 8, we laid off because we didn't believe in it. We didn't think it was the best deck. Whenever we release a guide, it's to the best interest of the players. And this is a deck that we 100% believe in set 9. Rotations here, we didn't really lose anything. Losing Fox doesn't matter. We don't need Rabbit. We don't need Snake. Not a big deal. So if you want this, if you want to be up to date and you want to know what our deck is on day 1, you need this guide. Check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this Amethyst Steel guide. If it's your first time here, you think this information is helpful, share it with a friend. Make sure, of course, you hit like, hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.